and welcome to The View from 4 Feet and 3 Inches. My name is Cassidy Huff. I'm your host, and today I am wearing my shoulder-length blonde hair down. It's a little crazy today, but we're working with it. I have a red sweatshirt on because it's really gloomy and rainy outside here in Southern California today. And then I have a white background. And you guys know whenever you see that white background, it means that I have a wonderful guest with me. I'm so excited for this episode. I have Kayla with me. Hi, Kayla.
Hi, thank
How
you so
are
much for
you?
having me. I am good.
Thank you so much for being on. I'm so excited to have you. Do you want to do a quick visual description of yourself, real quick?
Yes. I, my hair used to be strawberry blonde, and now that I'm looking at it in the camera, it's looking real dark, but got dark, kind of shoulder length hair as well. That's down, and I have not washed it in a few days. And so the go-to style is my headband that hides the greasiness on top. Very strategic. And I'm wearing a pink hoodie that says, "You can sit with us." If for any Mean Girl fans, and I got my glasses on, and my background is messy because we are in the process of moving all of our rooms around. So we got like a broken down crib, a mirror, a big chair,
I was gonna
a
say
lot.
you have kids, so you automatically get a pass. You're a
Yes,
mom. I don't care how you look. Automatically.
it is constant. Constantly, I feel like I'm telling people I haven't washed my hair, and constantly I'm telling people that there's stuff everywhere, and I'm
Uh,
like, I'm clean. I
we don't
clean
care
all the
here.
time.
We don't. My YouTube video this week that came out this week, which by the time everybody's seeing and listening to this, it will have been out weeks ago. But my YouTube video this week was so embarrassing because it was cleaning out my yarn stash, and it was literally like a pile as tall as me,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it was terrible. I can't believe I posted that. But I was the same way. I was like, I never show this area of my house because it's so messy and so bad. But welcome.
Did you get rid of stuff, or was it
I
more
did.
like
I donated a
reorganizing?
whole bag.
Oh,
I
nice.
know. Yeah, so now I only have yarn that I know I'm actually gonna use for something
Yeah.
later.
Well, because it's like you buy yarn for projects or something, and then you use it, and you're like, no, that color was just okay. And then you're like,
Yeah.
well, I guess I'll just keep it in case I ever want to try something new. And I am like classic hoarder.
Oh yeah, yeah. My
My
yarn
partner
stash
and
is
I both
real
struggle.
bad. And then I see other projects online. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna make that, and I buy all the yarn for it, and then I it just sits there. So,
Yep.
because I'm
I
like,
had
well,
to,
before I get to that, I have to do this first, and then I have like it's in a line, like I
first
have
off, you're
four
basically
projects.
describing like my TBR reading list, like my to be read
That
list.
one, that too.
That's
I have a
exactly how that
lot of
goes.
them. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to buy this and I'll read this one first. And I'm
I'll
like,
read it
well, let
later.
me just finish my book club one and then I'll do this one. Like, oh, well, let me just, I borrowed this one. I'm going to do it. It's
My
exactly
Libby, my Libby app is like constantly like, your hold is running out. Come on, you got you got to read this. I'm like, I'm getting to it. Hang on, give me a second,
I
please. I'm
know.
trying. I'm so busy. You don't understand.
Is it
Speaking
like,
of
do
busy,
you read it on Libby or
I
audiobook?
try.
Do you like, okay, so what I do on Libby, this is just a little fun fact that I do. So if you have like a
Yes.
Kindle or like something that's not like an iPad, I mean, you could do it to an iPad, but it'd have to be on airplane mode.
Sure.
I download books off of Libby onto my Kindle and then I put it on airplane mode. Well, you have to like download the books and then you put it on airplane mode and it doesn't, like it returns the book, but it won't take it away from your Libby. I mean, from
You're
your Kindle.
actually
But
a genius.
then you can't
You
take it
can't take
off
off
of
your.
airplane mode because the second you do, it's gone.
You're a genius. I
I
have
know.
never thought of. You're like, stop.
I'm very, very smart.
That is so smart. I'm gonna start doing that. That is so smart. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay, well, speaking of being busy, I know who you are. I was actually on your podcast months ago, back in
Yeah.
Halloween. Whoa,
Oh my gosh.
that was a
Feels like I was 5 years ago
that
of
was a
things
bit
that
ago.
happened.
Yeah. So I know who you are, but for others who are listening or watching who might not know who are you? What do you do? What are you all about?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm Kayla. I am a former education, like former para, former teacher, former education specialist for like California DeafBlind Services. Love education, and I've always been working like within the disabled community, and I've loved it. And then we moved. I was in California, and I moved to Washington, and I had kids, and then I started realizing. I guess I should say throughout my whole time working, it was always focused on inclusive practices. So when I was an aide, it was a school that was really focused on inclusion. When I was a teacher, at least the first class school I was at, they were really for it, and so I was like kind of leading it, and we were all like learning together how to make it happen. And then as an education specialist, I was like training groups on like how to involve the student who's deafblind in their community. So it was a lot of like doing all that. And so then I became a parent, and I was like, there's so much that parents can do if they just have like little snippets of information, like, or if they just think to focus on like getting a book with disability representation in their house. Like so then I started focusing on that. So now I have a social media account that I just called Inclusion Starts Now. And I just post a lot of random things about like, I don't know, resources, information. I make a lot of resources. That's pretty much what I do for fun.
I love that. So do you identify as disabled?
No, I do not.
Okay. You said that
I
so in
I
such a
did.
soothing tone. You're like, "Ugh, unfortunately, God, I'm not."
So like I the only well, because like I have had quite a few people reach out to me being like, it's so cool to see someone who's like neurodivergent and being a teacher and a parent or something. And I'm like, I don't identify, like, wait, what? I always mess up these different words. Like, yes, I'm neurodiverse. Like, we all have our own brains that work in their own way and whatever. But technically, I have no diagnoses of like ADHD or autism or what, like anxiety. Like, I have really none of that. But a lot of people think I have ADHD. People comment on it all the time. And I'm like,
Maybe it's time to go get a diagnosis.
I could. I just like, because like my partner just got a diagnosis for ADHD. But he was really struggling with work. Like he was having a really hard time, like, making sure that he was doing, like, keeping things organized and doing what he had to do. And I don't struggle with that at all. I,
Interesting.
so like I could have ADHD, but it doesn't affect anything in my life.
Sure.
So like I don't need any, I don't seem to need any more support than what I'm able to like give myself now.
Yeah, makes
Like,
sense.
yeah.
So, since you don't identify as disabled, how did you get into the whole disability? Like, I know you're well into the disability community now. You share a lot
Yeah.
of resources. You make videos about inclusivity, and you have a whole podcast about inclusivity. And, like, you're very into the disability community now. But how did that start? How did you wanting to be in special education as a para and an educator start?
It really all started because I learned American Sign Language in high school. That was like where it started. And I tried to learn Spanish, failed miserably, multiple times throughout my life. And I still really want to learn Spanish, but I am just having such a hard time with that, with learning that language. But American Sign Language came really easy to me, and I just like loved the language. I did it all 4 years of high school, went to college and did it there. Interpreted a couple of times, but I'm not certified, so I can't like actually like interpret
Say that you're an
professional
interpreter.
things.
Yeah.
But and yeah, so then I got a job as a one-on-one aide for a student because he's deaf-blind, and so he needed sign language. And at that point, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I didn't know it was going to be special education. It was probably like around that time I got that job that I was like, because I volunteered. I volunteered randomly with this group in San Francisco where I was playing sports with autistic kids. And I loved it. And some kids knew sign language, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I can sign and play with these kids. And like, so I guess it like just kept building. It was like this sign language was where it started. And then I'd like volunteer, I'd play with kids, um, and yeah, and I guess I just like, especially because I worked with a lot of students that are like non-speaking, and that was like such a huge barrier that people were like, "Oh, well, we don't know how to hang out with you because you're not like verbally communicating to us." And to me, I was like, why is that an issue? So I guess it just like kept fueling me. And then the more into it I got, the more I was like, how does everyone not just want to focus on inclusion? Like, what's wrong with everyone? So,
What's there's nothing wrong with me. What's wrong with you?
yeah, nothing's wrong with me. I'm totally fine.
I'm better than everybody else. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I'm better than you.
If everyone
I
could
love
just
that.
do what I do.
I love that. That's amazing. So how did your so that's when your kind of advocacy, I guess you can call it an advocacy journey, started in person. But how did that transfer into online and into your podcast and the kind of Kayla empire that you're building over there?
The Kayla Empire. I want that
Hey,
on a
I
shirt.
call this the Cassidy empire, so I feel like it's only fair.
Oh, I love that.
I-
Um, so I guess so I actually so inclusion starts now, like my Instagram account, that was probably started like almost a decade ago when I was like a teacher. I just made it like if I don't know, I have never been able to scroll back to the beginning. I don't know how like I've tried to scroll and I'm just like, "Ugh, there's too many posts. I can't do it." But because if you get to like the first probably 50 to 100 posts, it is like for me teaching, and it's also probably pictures of students' faces because a decade ago it was like I don't know. And I remember someone, it was like within my first year of having it, someone was like, you probably shouldn't post pictures of kids. And I'm like, oh, I guess like it's like my friends, it's like 50 people following me. Like I didn't even think about it. Now all those kids are like in high school, which I that just is crazy. If not older than that. But so then, and I think I actually went back at one point. Anyways, so that Instagram account started, and then I kept being like, I like stopped teaching for a few years, and then I like kind of posted, and I'm like, I'm done. Like, so it was kind of just there. And then I think it was right after I had my first kid that I was like, oh, because it was COVID too. So I'm like, oh, sure, I'll just start posting on this again. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's kind of like fun. I mean, like a little addicting to like meet other people in the community that, like hearing what people are doing in different states or different countries. And you're like, I don't, it like kind of pumps you up. So then I was getting really motivated to keep going. The podcast was because someone emailed me trying to like get me to hire them to make like an ad for me or something. And I was like, I don't know. I don't really have like money to pay for you to like make me an ad or like a commercial or whatever they were asking. And they're like, well, if you have a podcast, then we could like put all these links together. And I'm like, or clips. And I'm like, oh, I don't have one. And I happen to
Right.
also have a friend who like helped people make podcasts. And so then I like talked about it on my Instagram story and she was like, you have to do it. And so I did it. And now it's been a year.
So that's wild because we started our podcasts at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I've only been doing this for a year too.
That's awesome. How do
Yeah,
you like it?
I do. So one thing that I realized, the reason I started doing podcast or doing my podcast was because I love to talk, obviously.
I think you have
And
to have a podcast.
yeah. So I love to talk, and I already had a platform built on social media, and I got so many comments, and I was in so many conversations with friends and other activists, and they were like, "You need to start a podcast. Like you would do great talking about this." And I was like, "Yeah, maybe." So the first few episodes of my podcast are just me sitting on my couch talking about things. And
Yeah.
sometimes I would have my boyfriend sit next to me and we would tell stories or we would talk about our relationship or whatever, but I didn't know what I was doing. And so then I got really tired of that really quickly because I was like, I don't like this. I don't like just sitting in front of a camera talking about
Uh-huh.
who God knows what. And I feel like so I it wasn't fun for me anymore. And I was like, okay, well, I people are watching and listening and liking this, but I'm not liking this. So how can I keep going with this but make it fun for myself? And I realized that in talking with friends of mine that were also activists, that I could just have conversations with friends and then record them and post
Yeah.
those. So, because I was like, we're already having this conversation, why not record it? So I started doing that, and my first ever podcast guest actually was my mom, and
Oh,
I had her talk about how having me changed her perspective on disability because she had absolutely no experience with disability before that. She actually does have my syndrome, but was misdiagnosed when she was younger
oh,
and was just passed off as, oh, it's scoliosis. Give her a spinal fusion, she's fine. And so then she had me, and within literally the first 6 hours that I graced this earth with my presence, I had like doctors, a specialist told my mom that all I would ever be good for was a little person in a circus.
oh
And
my God.
so she was thrown into this world. She was 23 when she had
Yeah.
me, which is wild because I'm almost 23 now. And
Wow.
so I'm almost the same age as she was when she had me, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
And so, literally within the first 6 hours of having me, she was thrown into this world of activism because she was like, "You're not going to tell my child what she can and can't do.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to." And so she was my fiercest advocate, still is, but has been since day one. And so I had her on to talk about that. And now she's a little mini disability advocate over there, um, and does that in her work. She now works in healthcare. She had no
Oh,
experience in
nice.
healthcare prior to me. So I'm the reason she has a job. And just kidding. Um, but
You
I
are constantly just giving people a meaning for life.
I really am. I'm the
I know
reason.
that that's true.
Oh, truthfully. So I had her on to talk about that and to talk about her life before me because she did have a life before me. And
Now,
and
as a mom, I can say that's not true. There was nothing that has happened until I had kids.
yeah.
Very boring. My 20s, all the traveling, no, super
No,
boring.
no, super boring. You didn't see anything actually. Um,
Exactly.
no life experience. So I had her on to talk about that, and then I was at home, so I had my sister on too, which I was shocked that she even wanted to be on because she's worked so hard to separate herself from me. She doesn't want to be in my videos. She doesn't want to, and I completely, absolutely, really respect that. When we were little and in school, everybody referred to her as like, "Oh, you're Cassidy's little sister," and so she
Mhm.
really wanted to get away from that. And then as I got bigger on social media, she was like, "I don't know her. Who's that?"
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
Are
she
you
was like,
guys
"My
like
mom is next door."
close?
We're
Are you?
very close. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just more that she just doesn't want that, like,
Yeah, she just doesn't want to be
connection.
publicly known. And that's fair. And
Yeah.
I respect that. Like, she wants to go, she's 19. She wants to go and live her young adult life in college and not just be known as somebody else's sister. And I think that's absolutely fair. And so when she was like, "Wait, why didn't you ask me to be on your podcast? You asked mom, but not me." I was like, "Okay, fine. Do you want to do it?" And she's like, "Yeah." And so I had her on to talk about growing up with me and what it's like to grow up with a disabled sibling and how that differs from how her friends were growing up. And that was really interesting. People really like that. So I was like, okay, people are really liking when I have other people on and it's not just me talking in the camera.
Yeah.
So then I was like, hey, who else can I have on? So I reached out to one of my really good friends and mentors, Alicia Anderson, and had her on because she also has a podcast. And I had her on, and that went really well. And then I was like, who else do I know that would like be down for being on my little show for like an hour?
Yeah.
And turns out a lot of people, a lot of people want
It
to be
is like it is so wild to me how many people are like, yeah, like and because like okay, recently someone was messaging me and I don't know them other than through Instagram, but they were talking to me about Section 504 because of what's happening right now, and she said she's a teacher or professor, whatever, I can't remember what she said, but that she's about to teach about Section 504, but she's gonna try to teach it very like neutrally, like giving facts and not talking about like political opinions behind it. And so I was like, dude, good for you. Like, do you want to be on my podcast and talk about Section 504 so people can have like a resource and, learn about it? Just scratch myself. It's okay.
Love that.
Um, and then one time I had a person not liking one of my videos, and we were going back and forth commenting about it. And I was like, hey, do you want to talk on my podcast about this? And we did. And it ended up being a really good conversation. And I've just asked another person who was trolling me on TikTok. And wait, was it TikTok? Maybe, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. They kept sitting there telling me things that like we were sitting there going back and forth, and I was like, "Cool, let's talk." Oh, DEI, and like social. They were talking about how it's like a social thing. I can't remember what they were saying, but I was like, "Okay, let's
They'll
talk
tell
about
you,
it."
I guess, on your podcast.
Yeah, and they said yes, and then
Wow.
I messaged them, but it like goes through their request, so I don't think they've seen it yet. So, but we'll see.
That's so interesting. I need to start doing that. I'm gonna be like, you hate me so much, let's talk about it. Say it to my face.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's such a great
That might
conversation.
lead to some really constructive conversations.
Yeah,
I kind of
I
love
mean,
that.
I try so hard because I really like I look at my platform as like an educational platform. Like I am here to like talk to people, educate them, give them resources, and like have conversations. Like I'm also going to be learning from other people's perspectives because they're coming from like their own, biases and life upbringing.
Yep.
And it's been interesting. It's been like fun to have these conversations. And I've had some people who've like literally in comments been like, "Well, if that's what inclusion is, then I'm fine with it." I'm like, "Well, that's great because that's what inclusion is." Like it's not, I don't know, whatever you're being told.
It's so strange to me. I get comments like that all the time. Mainly, my comments are like, you're faking your disabilities. And I'm like, I don't know how to argue with that, actually. I'm like, what do you want me to do? Stand up? You want me to show you? Like, I don't know what else to.
It is
And it's
so
usually me explaining my mobility aid. And I'm like, this is what I use it for. And they're like, you just faked that to get that thing. I'm like, why would I
oh
do
my
that?
God.
Why would I spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and so much time to
So
do
much
this?
time.
So much time. My entire life, actually. What?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know if you're friends with Dallas, like from Discover with Dallas, but they just started getting bigger on YouTube, and her mom Katrina is like, every day we get someone asking us like, how does she sleep? And it's like in her bed. Like, what do you think? Like, you don't think a person in a wheelchair can also be in a bed? Like
How do you sleep?
how? Like, like it like blows my mind that I'm like, is this like a 10-year-old on social media? Like this cannot be an adult with a job living like or just doing this cannot be an adult like actively living a life not realizing that like you can get out of the wheelchair to go into a bed or you can get help and go to a bed. Like there's so many options.
I get comments. I responded to one a few months ago that was like on a video of me talking about my prosthesis. And they were like, do you have a different one for when you shower? And I was like, no. I don't know. I was like, uh, huh? So then I just did a whole sarcastic video about how if I kept my prosthesis on, this is how I would shower. And I was like struggling to like, because it's 3.5 pounds. It's heavy. It's made out of
Yeah.
carbon fiber and titanium. It's not light. So I was like struggling to like lift it over the bathtub and like all of that. But so I like to kind of tease people. I tell people
Yeah.
all the time, I'm like, you can ask me questions, but don't yell at me when I use your comment for fun. Like,
Yeah.
and usually people ask really good questions and really insightful and really kind questions. But sometimes I get the strangest. I'm like, how did we jump from there to the how did we get here?
Yeah.
I get comments like that all the time. How do you sleep? I got one that was like, you sleep with your prosthesis on, right? So then I did a whole other video where I got into bed with it on, and I was like, look, my ankle doesn't move. Like, it's just like this the whole time. And I was like, comfortable, right? But I like to combat those comments with sarcasm, but I should start. I have a few trolls on my Facebook specifically.
Oh,
That's
Facebook.
just don't start posting on Facebook.
I mean, I think I do, but I don't.
Do you have like a business page on there?
I do, but
Yeah.
it's the least. It's the one I care about
Oh no,
least.
that I also care about mine the least. But surprisingly, it's doing better than my Instagram right now,
Really?
follower wise.
Oh my
Yeah, I
gosh.
have almost 80,000 followers on Facebook. How?
Wow.
I'm just doing the same thing that I am on
Right.
Instagram. So
Well,
I
yeah, because like when I post on Instagram and it's like, do you also want to post on Facebook? I'm like, I guess.
sure. Yeah,
Like,
that's what I do too. Um, but yeah, I have a few trolls on Facebook that hate me, but they have the top fan badge because of how often they comment on my posts.
like just to like, where are they in their life that like they just like have to focus on someone else, like in such a hateful way, like a weird way, like a just like a not kind way. Like,
Right.
what kind of upbringing did you have to think like to be commenting so much on someone else's just way of living that you are a top fan for being rude? Like,
Being mean.
please tell me that they're subscribed to your like Patreon.
No, but I'm trying so hard. My mom just brought up a really good point. I have been telling everybody, I haven't said it publicly, but I've been telling everybody in my personal life that I really want to transfer over from like educational content, like what's wrong with my body, why does it look like that, to like more lifestyle content. Because at the end of the day, I'm a 22-year-old girl. I don't want to be telling you every 5 seconds about why my body looks different.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I get it, but at the same time, no matter what I post, it's gonna be educational whether I like it or not. So that's fine. If you want to watch me cook dinner, then you're going to learn how
I
one
love
disabled
that
person
video.
cooks dinner. Thank you.
Again,
Um,
so funny.
thank you.
Because of
Um,
my disability, I couldn't do the noodles anymore.
I thought it was really funny. Um,
I loved it.
thank you. I want to start doing more of that content, more funny, more lifestyle content, less sit down educational content. And so I was telling my mom that, and she's like, you know what you should start doing? You should start posting your educational content that you've already made, put it behind a paywall, like my Patreon, where
Yeah.
it's like, you want to know more about that? Go ahead over to the Patreon. You want to know why I wear a prosthesis every day? Go ahead over to the Patreon. And then just create like a folder of like frequently asked questions. And
Heck
then
yeah.
they can subscribe for however long they want, but I got their $15 whatever, for that month, just so that they could go scroll through my 20 videos,
Yeah.
you know.
I would love if we could put on, like if you're gonna say a mean comment, you have to pay $1. Like, how cool would that be?
I would love that.
Then I wouldn't,
I
I
would be
mean, I
making
wouldn't care at
bank.
all.
I would be making so much money. If you ever need a really good laugh, go on over to my Facebook because it is
Dude, I'm going to. I can't believe
truthfully
this.
so funny. Our mutual friend Wes, he goes over there for entertainment, and I know that for a fact because I see it's like Wes of Disabled Land commented on 6 of your posts in a row. And he's just
Yeah.
responding to other people because I get these like usually white men in my
Yeah.
comment sections that are like, all she does is complain. All she does is she's using her disability for clout. And I'm like, yeah, I actually am. It's like they're like, you're just in it for the money. I'm like, well, yeah, my body is cost so much money. I figured now it's time to, you know, for it to
Yeah.
start paying its own taxes. Like it needs to start paying its own bills at this point.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that.
like flaunt what you got. So did you
Heck
learn
yeah.
something? Okay, cool. And then they're like, no, I didn't learn anything. And then my favorite comment is like, okay, well, thank you so much for um, commenting and continuing to pay my rent. And they really don't like that.
I love that one. Yeah, especially when people are just like mean. I will usually do something where it's like, well, thanks for the engagement. Kiss.
Because you're
I do
mean
a lot
for
of
what? What does that bring you? What does that
what?
bring to your day? Like to be mean to somebody else.
Oh, I know. I know. And I really like, okay, one of the best ones, and by best I mean like worst, but this was like this was probably like the biggest comment I ever had where we went back and forth that I was just like, I would love studies done on this person's brain on like why they are the way that they are. Um, so I had a video about behaviors, and it was like something like I got mad at at the admin at my school for suspending my student of mine because of like a behavior. It was this whole thing. A lot of people had a lot of comments. People, if you want to get people riled up, talk about students having behaviors. Um,
Any behaviors?
like more aggressive.
Okay.
People get really like that. People just the thing is, I say this so often in my caption where I'm like, safe classrooms are important. Like I'm not saying like there shouldn't be a plan, but
Sure.
like they're like because the reel that I did, it was because the student had a behavior plan and the person with them didn't follow it. And so then they got hit and then they were like, okay, the student's suspended. And I'm like, okay, so now
But
that
that's the
kid just
adult's fault.
learned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, the adult didn't do what they were supposed to do. And the kid hit because they were frustrated. And now they get to go home and go sit on their tablet while their mom continues to work. Like, so they just got out of any sort of like actual consequence and learned nothing. And like, that is why we have a behavior plan. We're
Yeah.
like, anyways, that's not even where I was at angry. This person commented saying how students or kids like that need to be locked up in a room and like forgotten about, like something super mean. And I don't always go and look at other people's profiles, but I'm like, I'm gonna go look at this lady's profile because like, dude, F you. Like,
Yeah,
how did I
right?
even show up on your anything? Heard the first thing that she said was like pro-life and like, and if you're not, like, you're a horrible whatever. It was something very pro-life, very Jesus-y. And I responded to her being like, in your profile you said you're pro-life. Like, I don't understand how you could say that as like as an adult saying that a child should be put away.
Yeah, what?
And her all she said back was like, I have no idea what those two things have in common. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? So I was like, okay, I'm not even going to talk to you because that we
Literally.
really, I don't know. Like,
Two
I don't know
different playing
how.
fields. Two different playing fields at that point.
Yeah, I'm like, so you just think a child with a behavior like is different than a child? Like, I don't. Do you know what children are like? Like, have you ever been around a child?
Ever.
Like,
There was this one comment from this child. It was a 15-year-old boy. And I know this because it was such a vile, disgusting comment. I don't even remember what the comment was, but it was bad enough that I went and I looked at his profile and it was public. And like the most recent post he had on there was, "Oh, I just got my learner's permit," or whatever. I was like, "Oh, good for you, man." Um, but the thing that really got me was that he posted a picture of, like, the paper that you get when you get a learner's permit. Like, you
hmm
have to keep it in the car because it's not like a license. And so he was holding it and smiling next to it. It had his first and last name, his school, his address, his parents' name. None of it was blurred out.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I said, bet. And I
Please tell me.
I
Please tell
went
me.
and I emailed his school. Um, I emailed his school and I was like, "This is the kid. Screenshot the comment, first and last name. Here you go." And then I found his mom on Facebook, and I like
Oh
really
my
vetted
God.
it because it had like it. You know how like you can name family members or whatever on Facebook. So it
Yeah.
had like this kid's first and last name as son, and I was like, it's same profile picture. I said, cool. And
Oh
I
my
texted the
gosh.
mom and I said, "Hey girl, just so you know, screenshot the comment. Here you go." And I got an email back next day from the school, being like, "We are so sorry. Actions have been taken." The mom read my message. She never responded. Um, but
Wow. Well,
I
I
was
mean,
like,
good for
and then
you
he
for
commented
doing
again, and he was like, "Bro, I'm just a kid. Like, how dare you? How like it was just a joke." And I was like, "And that's
oh
called
my God.
actions have consequences."
Heck yeah.
Sorry. And I was like, "Sorry you had to learn this the hard way from a random girl on the internet, but like, don't be mean." And I really hope he learned his lesson again.
Well,
He blocked me after that.
well,
As he
good
should.
for
I would have been.
you for like going to the school too, because I do feel like when there are kids that say things that are just like mean or inappropriate, like they usually hear them from their parents.
Yeah.
Like it's not like I mean, I don't know, don't get me wrong, of course, like kids are experimenting and they're saying things and they have other peer like
Sure.
pressure, but like I recently substituted in a class and I had this kid say that's gay and I was like shocked. I'm like
Taken back
what?
to the
Like
previous. Like, oh!
when I was in school, we were told not to say that. Like, how are you still saying that? And so I did, I totally was like, I'm sorry, why did you say that? And I was like making them reflect and try to say, and then someone was like, well, gay means happy. And I'm like, okay, so tell me in that sentence how that was like a synonym for what we were talking about. Like, synonym.
I really hope you were like subbing for an English class specifically.
It was like, it was I don't know how much I don't know, fifth grade. I don't think it matters
Close
that I
enough.
say that. But yeah, it was like fifth grade. So they're like older kids.
Old enough.
Yeah, like old enough to know. And then another kid just kept being like, well, my parents say that all the time. And I'm like, okay, well, you can do better than that. Like, I was just like, don't say it. Like, don't say it
Yeah.
in front of me. Because if anyone says it again, like, I'm going to send you to the principal's office. Like, it's not nice. So,
No, don't be
good
mean.
talk, everyone.
Anyways, back to the lesson. Yeah, I was, speaking of podcast guests, I was shocked that these two said yes, but I invited my third grade and my fourth grade teacher on my podcast.
Oh my
They
gosh.
were like, they're still family friends to this day. They were instrumental in my life for different reasons, but mainly because they both taught me how to advocate for myself really strongly and how to advocate for what I needed. And also, they protected me a lot more than I realized at the time,
Yeah.
physically from other children.
Oh my
But
gosh.
I interviewed my fourth grade teacher yesterday, and he was saying the same thing. He was like, "Yeah, frequently." I had to be like, "Guys, don't say that." Anyways, so
That is
all
so
the time.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, I'm shocked that both of them said yes because, especially my third grade teacher, that it's not her thing at all to be on in front of any cameras.
Yeah.
So I thought she was gonna take some convincing, but shockingly, right out the gate, she was like, "Yeah, I'd love to." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool."
That's so cool.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to have both of them on. But I've realized a common theme lately. All of the people that I've had on the show very recently are all educators,
Oh,
and I just got a part-time teaching position.
you did?
I don't feel like it's a coincidence.
No, you got to surround yourself with other educators.
Apparently. But like all of you within like this week have all been educators, and I'm kind of like, that's so
You're
interesting.
feeling it.
It's not on purpose. It's not. I swear, it's not on purpose. So it's so
That is so
interesting.
awesome. Congrats.
Thank you. I'm teaching voice now.
Fun. Do you say
Yeah,
voice? Like
yeah,
singing?
voice.
Okay, at first I thought you said boys, and I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense.
You were
So
like, boys, what? No, I'm
just like
teaching. I'm
all
teaching
age.
singing and piano and ukulele. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I'm excited.
That's
I'm a
so
little
cool.
nervous, but I've been assured that I'm just gonna get the little kids. So
Nice.
I feel a lot better. It's not gonna be like a 16-year-old who comes in and is like, "Hey, teach me something."
Yeah.
So 5-year-olds, easy.
Little
I'm
kids are like They're my favorite. I prefer once they get to like 8 or 9 years old, they start getting like this like sarcastic attitude that like they're really testing out. And I think it's like they really start understanding that like everyone else has their own like life. And so that development is like just really extreme.
Yeah.
So after 9, I kind of don't know how to talk to kids because like I'm not cool enough. But with like little kids, I'm the coolest because I'm like,
Yeah.
"Hey guys, what are we doing?" Like I do all the fun voices and I love all that. And I love simplifying things because I think it's like so fun to try to really like build that foundation of learning. But yeah, fifth grade. I mean, it was pretty scary for me to be in a fifth grade class because like they would just like there was like a fight at the end, like or not like a fight, but like an argument, and one of them just like left, and I'm like, oh, like don't leave, and then they left, and I'm like,
Please don't do
okay,
that.
well, guess I'll see you in a second. Like I don't know, all the other kids are here, so like I can't really leave.
Yeah,
But
I won't do
yeah,
that. Nope. No, no. Not
no,
doing that.
it was
My
scary.
little cousin right now, she's 3. And that's like perfect age.
Such a
I
fun age.
love when they're that age because she's like learning so much. And I went home for Christmas. Actually, I should have seen you because I was in Seattle. I'm just,
Well, no, I'm like near Portland, so
yeah.
I'm
I
like
mean,
in.
that's only like an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. It's
Is
not
it? I thought it was like 3. It doesn't matter.
whatever.
It's not like right next door. But you
No.
could have taken a day trip and now I'm upset. So
How
get me off of your
dare you
podcast.
actually? Yeah, I went home for Christmas though, and she was so interested in learning everything. And I live far enough away to where she doesn't really remember who I am every time I come home.
Yeah.
And then I established like I am your family, and then I leave again. So every year
Yeah.
she's like, "Who are you? You crochet cool things and make stuffed animals sometimes." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's
That's
me."
me.
But her parents, my uncle and my aunt, asked us, me and my boyfriend, to watch her for 2 days, and so we got to watch her for like
Wow.
probably 4 or 5 hours each day, and it was my favorite because like she's just at the age where she's starting to realize what disability is, but she doesn't think it's weird yet.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I like have my prosthesis on, and she's kind of looking at it. And then I'm like, "Oh, do you want to hold it?" And she's like, "Yeah." And then she grabs it and she's like, "It's heavy. Take it back." I'm like, "Yeah."
It
But
is.
she's my favorite. I love her. And when you show up with gifts every time you see her, it usually.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
helps.
How old are your kids?
Um 4.5 and almost 3. The the second one turns 3 next month.
Oh, you looked
Yeah.
at that. You were like, "Hang on, what month is it?" No.
I know. It's well, yeah, it's wild. They're so much fun. The 4.5-year-old starts kindergarten this next year, and it's just like, oh, it's so fun. But I mean, they have me as a parent, so they get a lot of like disability conversations, and they've met like, I mean, like I would go, especially in California, we'd have these deaf-blind meetups. For like all of our families that we worked with, and it was like a free hangout where all everyone would get together,
That's so fun.
and it was super fun. And I'd like bring my kids, like everyone brings their families and stuff, and so it was like they kind of got to just see this whole area, this whole community that like isn't, I mean, the deaf blind population is very small. It's not like a big population, um, but they got to see like different kinds of like signing and people and disabilities. And
Wow.
I mean, they know it so much. Like my oldest gets kind of like excited when she sees like an accommodation, and she'll just be like, "Mom, look, there's a disability." Like, and it's like a wheelchair. I'm like, okay, solid, like great. But like, you don't need to yell it like that. Like you could just say, "Hey, like, nice to see you."
Even my mom says the same thing to me, and I'm 22. So, um, we went to go see a movie last year, and the woman behind the counter was, I think she was a wheelchair user, and I didn't realize it. And so we were almost up to the front of the line, and I like looked, and I was like, "Oh, Mom, look, she's disabled too." And my mom was like, "Shh, stop. Don't yell that." I was like, "Why not? It's fun." And she totally heard me. She
Yeah.
absolutely hurt me, and I could see like the smile across her face, but she didn't say anything. So I thought it was
Oh.
good. But my mom says the exact same things to me, and I'm almost 20 years older than your kid. So
I mean, I feel like as long as it's in a more positive way,
yeah,
that
yeah,
seems
it's
fine.
fine.
Just,
It's fine.
noticing a fun similarity.
Yeah,
Like,
it's fine. It's great. I'm also deafblind, and I have met one other person who's deafblind.
yeah.
So if you ever know
Wait, you're in
anyone,
California, but you're 22.
yeah.
So you're like just out of, well, still, there's Helen Keller National Center has a California CSP,
Mm,
California Service Support Program. Um, but that like they help people live independently and get
I
jobs
love
and
that.
that support. Um, and like if you need devices or something, they like help you with I want to say like AAC devices, but I used to work with them too. So I worked with California Deafblind Services, which is birth to 22, and then Helen Keller National Center, which is 22 and up.
That's
So it's fun, and there's people. They're all over Northern and Southern California because
I
I've
know.
hung
I
out with a
really
lot
need
of
to
them.
get into the deafblind community. I've gotten really established in the deaf community now.
Yeah,
Here, but and I have a lot of deaf friends, so that's good. But the blind community, I need to. That's my next one that I'm going to infiltrate. Um,
nice.
that I'm just going to
I mean,
work my way into.
well, it's like what I think is so interesting about the community is that like because what everyone says to me when I say that I've worked with people who are deaf blind, their first thing is like they're totally deaf and they're totally blind, like 100% no vision or hearing. And I'm just like, no. Like there are people who are deaf blind who can drive a car. Like they can like they just and then like there I have a really beautiful table that shows it. Well, California Deafblind, so some state deafblind project made it, but it shows like the decibels of hearing and then like vision like distance or
Yeah,
something. And it shows like if you fall like this is like uh typical hearing and typical vision. If you fall into this category where you have any sort of like lower hearing and lower vision, that is deafblind.
yep.
And that's very hard for me to like that's like what I can't not it's not very hard, but it's constantly the thing I describe to people.
I
But
get
then it's
comments
like such a huge
all the
variety.
time. Yeah, everybody thinks every time I'm like, oh yeah, I'm deafblind. They're like, how can you hear me right now? I'm like, or like I talked to my friend Molly a while ago, Molly Burke, who's blind, and she's blind content creator, and
Yeah. I love her. Love
I
her so.
also love her, and our service dogs are in love, but that's besides the point. And
That's so
um,
good.
so we were talking about the fact that she always gets the, well, if you're blind, then how do you know where I am, like when I'm having a conversation with you? And she's like, well, I follow the sound, and then I know how human faces work, so I just look slightly above where the sound is coming from, or the
Yeah.
direction it's in. And so I get comments like that all the time where people are like, if, because I do this series where my boyfriend reads off comments and then I react to them. And I'm like usually crocheting because it looks so weird if I'm just staring at the camera while he's
Yeah.
reading them off. And so I'm crocheting, and I at one point said that I was deafblind in one of the videos, and it went viral, and everybody was like, "But if you're deaf and blind, how can you hear him? And how are you crocheting?" And I was like, "Guys,
It's really like, and there are people who do have very low vision and low hearing who are artistic, like who like yeah.
well,
I,
there's a
it's,
really famous composer. I think it was Beethoven who was deaf.
yeah, I think it
Hello,
was him.
like."
I know.
I don't understand how people. And then one of the older trends now, but when I was first getting into social media activism, were kids saying that Helen Keller wasn't real.
Oh, dude, I will die on that hill to just, I get so mad at people. I
I
did,
am
yeah,
shocked every time because they're like, because I bring her up all the time because people are like deafblind people like they're totally deaf and totally blind, and then I'm like, well, look at Helen Keller because a lot of them are like they can't do anything, like deafblind people who are deafblind they can't accomplish anything, they can't do anything, and then I'm like, well, look at Helen Keller, and they go, she wasn't real, and I'm like, what do you mean?
yeah,
She was
that,
definitely real. She was a real human being. She wrote a book. Like what?
yeah. I know. I've had to do, especially, I think it was this last year for Deaf Blind Awareness Week. I did a lot of videos, like stitching interviews of people saying, like, because this one person was like, yeah, apparently they communicated, like, I don't know, like through their hands or something. And I'm like, that's called tactile sign language, you a-hole. Like, there is a whole language. Like, go educate yourself. Like, you could seriously Google, like, deaf blind communication or something so simple, and you will get so much information.
Especially now with social media,
Yeah.
with the internet, like how YouTube is like a thing.
It is,
There are
it's,
so many
yeah.
deafblind creators that I can name right now that like you can go and follow them. I
Yeah.
had another deafblind guest on my podcast. Their name is Samu, and we met on TikTok. That's how we met. And I didn't know that they were deafblind, and they didn't know that I was deafblind until one of our conversations 2 years into our friendship. I was like, "Wait, you're deafblind?" And they were like, yes, you are too. And I was like, yeah. And so
Oh
then it
my
became like
gosh.
a thing, and both of us know ASL, and so we're we're just learning together,
I
and
love that.
yeah, it's so fun. But I feel like a lot of people don't know how many of us there are. Like
Yeah.
we're everywhere.
Oh, like specialists. I mean, a lot of times we would go into schools and train them on what deaf blindness is. And then they'd be like, oh, you know what? Like, I have another student that kind of does, like, that I feel like might fall into that category. And like, so often we would get, and we were the ones who, like, California Deafblind Services, we were the ones that had to, like, get the numbers of, like, how many people are deafblind birth to 22. And there was a lot of times that, like, because I was working part-time for both, so I'd be with Helen Keller National Center and I would bring up a different person I was helping, and they were like, oh, we don't have that person in our data, like in our what do you call that,
Like a census.
counties. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
yes.
that's
So yeah,
wild.
yeah.
It's the lack of knowledge that people
Oh
have
yeah.
never ceases to amaze me. I get comments all the time. They're like, "Why are you in a wheelchair but you can walk? How are you deaf but you can verbally speak? How are you blind but you can drive a car?
And
How?"
like, how many people ask those questions?
Every day I get
I
asked this
keep wanting to
question.
do a video where I'm like, before you make a comment, I want you to do something. Go to that person's account and go check it out real quick. Like, see if you can maybe figure something out before just asking a question
Yeah.
that, like,
That's the part that like really grinds my gears sometimes is I get that I could be answering the same 20 questions for the rest of my life and you'll never get bored of my content. Why? Because everybody asks me the same 20 questions every day. And
yeah,
I know that partially ask for that because I do post on social media and I invite people into my life and like I expect questions and I'm happy to answer them. But you try answering the same 20 questions for the rest of your life and tell me that you're not kind of exhausted by them.
oh yeah.
And they're not interesting either. They're like, why does your leg look like that? And I'm
I don't
like
know,
at
why
this
does
point,
your
I've
leg look like
memorized your
that?
spiel. I've memorized a whole thing that I just rattle off to people. But at this
Yeah,
point, if you see one of my videos and you're like, I wonder why her leg looks like that, go look at my page. I have 20 other videos this month telling
yeah,
you why, you know? Like, it's
yeah.
not hard to find. Or, one of the most common Google searches is Cassidy Huff leg.
No, it is not. That is so funny.
If you just go into Google and you type Cassidy Huff, you'll
Oh
find
my God.
boyfriend, leg, and dog.
How is dog third?
Don't ask me. I don't know. I don't know.
Gosh.
Sometimes it fluctuates. Sometimes it's wheelchair. Sometimes, for a long time, it was Mercedes because the dumb Mercedes video that I made last year that went crazy viral. It had like 30 million views.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
it was the dumbest video I've ever made. It was not educational whatsoever. It was
What
like,
wasn't it? I don't even know this video.
I'll show you. It's horrible. It's funny, but like there was no reason for it to go that
Oh
viral.
my
I was
God.
like, really, guys, really? But hey, it paid my rent for like 3 months, so I'm not. I'm
That's awesome. I seriously can't tell what's gonna go viral or not still.
Me neither.
Like, and
Just the
sometimes
boy.
like on TikTok it goes crazy and Instagram it's like nobody
Yep,
cares.
every time.
I'm just like, how? Like this or like I'll work so hard on one where I'm like, oh yeah, this is it, and it gets like nothing. I'm like,
Yep,
damn, okay.
man, and nothing changes either. You're using the same hashtags. You're posting at the same time.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Do
it
you
just
ever get stressed out going on to social media? Like, do you have to like carve out time to be like, okay, now I'm gonna go and look through the comments?
I try not to.
You try not to.
Sometimes I try not to look through my comments at all. Um, Sometimes I do for content ideas. Or my favorite platform to look on is YouTube because YouTube Studio lets you um, put like comment filters on, so you can put like the contains question filter on, and then
Oh,
it'll just show you all the ones that contain questions.
oh my
And so
God.
then I'm like, ah, yes, there's my video for the day, you know.
That is so smart.
Yeah, but none of the other apps have that. So I know that if I go into like my TikTok comment section, it could be potentially really damaging to my mental health.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
why
my
I'm like,
gosh.
I try not to do that. Or if there's something that's like that catches my eye, I'll go and look at just that one.
Yeah.
But usually it's like right after that it's posted, like right after the comments posted, because it's at the top of my notifications. But I really try not to look at my notifications. I try not to look at my comments because it's just
Yeah.
sometimes people can be really mean and really ableist, and I can't look at it.
Yeah. I mean, I would like sometimes I feel like I'm being too weak about it because I'm like arguing. Like it's not even like they're getting mad at me. They're getting mad at like what I believe. Like where I can't like I will never understand what it's like for people to like question my existence through
Yeah.
like these mean comments. Like I
Yeah, I get
yeah,
a lot of comments that are like, she doesn't even deserve to be alive. And I'm like, okay, I can't look at that one.
yeah, no, I would hate those.
Yeah, I
Like
can't. So
I
sometimes I have days where I'm like, you're not allowed to look at any comments today at all. Like,
yeah,
don't look at your notifications, don't look at your follower count, don't look at how well videos are doing, just don't look.
I
Because
think
it's
that's really
really
smart.
bad. Yeah.
Because yeah, I definitely right now on TikTok, I'm having like some I can't even remember what the video was. I don't know, something about inclusive practices. And just so many people said things. And so I do like video responses because like I mean my followers are small enough to where I can like kind of individually like reach out sometimes. But but yeah, when it like when people, are like four or five comments each, I'm like, dude, I'm like, come on. Like look, now I have like 50 comments on five different videos. You think I'm gonna go through each one? Like, no, I'm
No,
not gonna do that.
no.
Like but yeah, I try to skim. When I recently for Christmas, I had this one. I thought it was such a cute idea. Boy, did TikTok tell me I was stupid for thinking that. It was it was like I had a gift bag and I was opening presents and being like, "Don't get your teacher something lame this year." And it was like a mug, lotion, um something, a candle. And these are all my things. Like these are all clearly
Yeah,
like a half-used candle that
that
I
you're
have.
putting in a bag, yeah, and then taking it off, yeah.
Yeah, then I'm like, oh, like, and I'm looking all bummed, and I'm like, instead, get them these inclusive books, and they're like my books that I'm like, get them my books, and so many people were like, I'm not getting my teacher anything because they're so inconsiderate, and I'm like, what the heck, you
TikTok was
guys?
like, you stupid woman, how dare you?
I know. So I went through every comment of especially the people that were like, how about I get teachers? Nothing. Like every person who did that, I responded being like, you should never let a video on TikTok tell you like, or you should not like you should always celebrate the people in your community and a video on TikTok like shouldn't interfere with that.
Yeah.
And so that is what I like copied and pasted it to like hundreds of people because I was like, no, screw you guys. Like, first off, this is hilarious. Okay. And these are all about my books. So I thought this was being cute. It was not at all. But to all the people that were like, well, then we're not getting our teachers anything. And some people were like, well, great. I just had my kids like draw cards because we can't afford anything. I'm like, dude, like,
I'm not talking to you.
of course teachers are gonna love cards and teachers like
Stop.
I got candles and mugs and lotion. I love them all, but I just was trying to be cute.
I did one that was like calling out the people on specifically I said Wicked. Um like the musical, the stage
Yeah.
musical, not the movie. I don't know how many times I have to preface that because I said it in the video, but everybody was like, the movie, the actress who played Nessa Rose in the movie is disabled. I was like, I know.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
okay. We're friends. I was up for the same role. I talk to her all the time. Please leave me alone. But I got bullied so hard for that, and I didn't even. I wasn't dragging her. Anyways,
Yeah.
I posted this video being like, "Here's how to push a chair correctly, so you don't hurt yourself." Because this one actress that I was watching on stage was like rocking, like really trying to like propel herself, but then she would move back like 3 inches because she was like throwing herself back. And I was like,
Yeah.
part of it could be the stage, part of it could be the chair, but here's how to not hurt yourself when pushing a chair. And so many people were like, well, this is if you can only push yourself correctly if you have like a custom chair. Not all of us can afford a custom chair, and like I've been in a crappy hospital chair for the last 3 years because insurance won't let me. I was like, I'm not talking to you. I'm not
No,
talking to you.
yeah.
This was not for you. If this is,
Yeah.
please just take it or leave it. I don't mean to offend anybody. It was a
Yeah.
funny, silly video. Leave me alone, please.
Oh yeah. No, my mental health, there's definitely days that I'm like, no, we're done. We're done with social
I'm done
media.
today.
And if I like sign in and I see that I have like over 100 comments, I'm like, I get nervous. I'm like, great. Like, what
What went
video,
viral?
what stupid video did I make that people are all offended about?
People really hate me for.
Yeah.
Okay, here
Um,
is my last question for you.
yes.
So, my main demographic is young teenagers, ages usually 13 to 18. Some are my age, some are like 18 to 24 based on my analytics, but a lot of them, a big chunk of my viewers are younger. My question that I ask every single person at the very end of my podcast is what would your advice be for young disabled people? Because I get a lot of questions being like, I don't know how to love my disabled body. I don't know how to advocate for myself in educational settings. What do I do if a teacher isn't listening to my accommodations? What do I do? How do I really love what I'm wearing? So you can kind of take this any which way you want. But for you, what would you say to younger disabled teenagers or disabled kids who might be listening or watching?
Yeah. So the first two things that came to mind was one was to like have that inner circle that is just gonna like pump you up. Like that is, I mean, I would say throughout my entire life, like it is just so important, whether it's your family or your friends, siblings, peers, like whoever, keep that inner circle close and like be willing to be vulnerable with each other where like to be able to text a group of people and being like I just feel so horrible today and like to have a group that's going to pump you up I think is like so necessary um and just so important. So that's definitely number one. Number two, and I know that like you specified on disability, but I think it's also just important to know that like puberty is crazy. Middle school and high school is crazy. Like, I think most people go through, like, as you're like you're growing, your body's changing so much, like hormones are happening, and like I really don't think there's ever a way that someone could just like in their head be like, this is fine. I love all these awkward new stages I'm figuring out. Cause like it's hard and it's weird and you don't know how to control everything. Like, I mean, I can tell you as an almost 35-year-old woman, I still struggle with, especially actually after having kids. My hormones are just like wild. And I like there are times with my partner that I'm all of a sudden like, you know what? I'm going to need you to like walk away from me. Like I am not feeling like myself and I know what I need to like do to help me feel good right now. Um so really figuring out what makes you do feel happy or like and if you feel sad or uncomfortable like, go be by yourself for a little bit. Like that's fine. I used to probably never felt that way in high school, like wanting to be alone. I always wanted like my friends to be like, help me. But now as a parent, I'm like, no, I'm gonna go sit in my closet and close the door with the lights off. Nobody go and talk to me. I'll be right back. But
I feel that way, and I don't have
yeah,
kids, so
it's definitely like, I mean, just like what we were saying with social media, like if my mental health feels like it's starting to struggle, like then I get off of social media. I'm not
yep.
gonna put myself through that. And in school, when I was a teacher and I get really stressed out, I had an album on my phone of like funny memes and quotes that I liked. And I would go and like look through them and just be like one of them that I always think of is like don't be the yellow Mento, be the pink Mento. And I loved it so much. So it would be like my little inspiration folder. I
I
still
love
have
that.
it.
That's so cute.
So I hope if any of that was helpful.
Yes, I definitely think that's helpful for everyone. I think I
I
think
hope
it's
so.
helpful for anyone at any age. Just walk away from conversations, have a
Yeah.
funny memes folder, and and don't look at social media comments. That's
Yes.
the end.
I actually just got a book called The Anxious Generation, and I haven't read it yet. My grandma sent it to me,
Oh,
and I think it's going to be about how technology is like hurting our mental health. And
because
I
it
mean, because
is.
the cover is a little girl on a phone, and I'm like, okay, I
Mm.
see where this is going.
Thanks,
And
Grandma. God,
yeah, yeah,
get the message.
it's hard. It's hard because there's like so much good also here, like that we've been able to connect. Like I
Yeah,
love this so much.
me too.
But
Kayla,
that's
thank you so much
time
for
things
being on.
going.
I really
Of
appreciate it.
course.
Where can people find you?
Inclusion starts now is my name everywhere.
Amazing. That's easy. Some people are like, and my name on Instagram is, then my name on Facebook is this, but with a period in the middle, and then.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, it's inclusion. I think on Pinterest, there's one, but I don't even go there. It's some random thing, but it was like inclusion starts now is too long.
Mm.
So I don't know what it is because I was like, well, I guess you're not for me then.
Then I guess nobody's gonna find me here, and that's fine. That's okay. Thank you so much for being on, and thank you for watching and listening to this episode of The View from 4 feet and 3 inches. My name is Cassidy Huff. Please go follow me on all my other social media, including Patreon, because I do post on there Instagram and Facebook Reels, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts every single day. I have a YouTube vlog that comes out every Wednesday and a podcast episode here on The View from 4 feet and 3 inches everywhere that you listen to podcasts out. That comes out every single Sunday. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Make sure that you leave a 5-star rating depending on where you're watching and listening. And we will see you next time. Bye.